killed hundreds of minions to get to that moment.
1,000 minions had to die
so I can attack one person.
It's important. All right, let's hop back into it here as JDG have elected for first pick, and BLG will play off of the blue side. Do not be fooled by the fact that the teams are on different sides at the bottom. It's BLG blue.
So now I want to see, is it going to be a Renekton early pick here? Because Gnar is already gone, Rumble is already banned. Those are two of the best answers into it, though we have, to be fair, seen Sion do really, really well into that matchup a number of times. But Xiaoxu is just such a Renekton enjoyer.
I know that it's LPL versus LPL, but at least in LCS, where we come from, I consider this the nightmare matchup because teams will always pick Renekton, and then he just ends up being a sock puppet by the end of the game.
I consider every matchup into Sion to be the Renekton. You're like, okay, I'm 12 CS ahead. Well, great, buddy.
Guess what?
His Soul Furnace gave him 2,000 HP.
It's like, all right, better do your empowered Call the Meek for 400 damage. But all right, we've got the Seraphine Lulu Pantheon banned out by JDG. BLG getting rid of the Rumble, the Karma, and the Rise, as it's JDG first picking Vi for JunJia. Let's see how BLG wants to respond to the dive that is going to go along with a Vi pick.
Yeah, Ashe would surprise me a little bit. I think Xin makes sense as an answer. Xin is so strong in general. When people are trying to dive past the Xin, he kind of says no, right? You pop the Crescent Guard. You're really good at just hitting what is in front of you, putting pressure on those divers. Yunara makes way more sense than Ashe, not only because the Seraphine is banned, but because you have more mobility, more safety. Neeko is going to give you a stronger 2v2, and Pop Blossom is fantastic counter engage, as we know. So I really like these first two picks here. Seeing the Vi, because Vi is not a pick that you can really pivot out of and say, you know what, we're going to play front to back. I'll just ult the Sion. Like, it doesn't really work that way.
That's pretty junk.
You're kind of locked in.
That's not going to work the best. So yeah, Yunara, Neeko, loving this in the bottom lane for BLG, but JDG, I want to see more dive with it. This is what you were already talking about. Renekton is up, so that's what they're going to lock in for Xiaoxu. And I feel like, especially when you're playing something like Renekton, especially when you're playing this champion that needs to not fall behind, otherwise you kind of just feel useless. I want to see the rest of the team also supporting this pick, because I feel like at this point, Shun and even On are going to be looking to make sure Bin gets ahead.
Absolutely, they really are. And I mean, Sion seems like the expected answer now, because as I said, Gnar is gone, Rumble is gone. Xin, though, would mean you would be dropping that, and that would get banned. So you're kind of choosing between the two. Do you care more about the Sion or more about the Xin? Because the other is very likely to be banned by JDG in the next phase. So in this case, they are going to prioritize the Sion, which I actually think is correct, because, again, I think Xiaoxu might be the best Renekton in the world. This guy's Renekton is cracked. He is very, very good at it, has an incredibly impressive laning phase. This is a champion that I most associate him with. Okay, so you don't want to put Bin in a really bad spot when he has been such a point of power for the team. So with the Sion, you just kind of have to withstand the early phase of the game. And when we see that it's Ahri, you just don't care about Ahri's damage as Sion. You're just going to be stacking armor. Maybe your Jack Show is going to give you some MR later on or whatever. But you stack some early armor. That's going to deal with the Vi, with the Renekton, with the AD carry that we know GALA is going to be playing. And HongQ has to fight past the Sion. Ahri cannot really win fights going frontline, similar to Vi, right? So it's all about, can they execute on the dive? And so now I feel like, as JDG, you want to ban the Xin for sure. And then you're thinking about, all right, what are good counter engage or defensive mid laners that we could have to deal with here from Knight? Is it worth banning out a mid laner, or do we just want to target another AD jungler and put that even more down? Because we know exactly how JDG are going to play the comp out, regardless of what their bot lane is. It actually changes nothing.
Right. So they do ban the Xin. Over on the BLG side, Rakan being banned away. It's a great partner for Vi and Ahri, diving into the back line like you're already talking about, right? Ahri does one Spirit Rush forward. You battle dance to her. Then you Grand Entrance forward with the quickness already activated. You have a ton of gap close. So they're going to make sure that can't go with them. Second ban of this second half is Kalista for BLG. This is another one of those champions that, again, if you have an engaged support, you bring him in, you toss him forward for the extra distance. Your engage is that much more powerful.
Yep, and Kalista Renata would be something that would be fitting the aggressive bill. Of course, GALA could just go Kai'Sa. I mean, that is definitely an absolute GALA classic. But the problem is, a lot of Kai'Sa lanes are pretty weak, right? And it is going to be difficult when you already see a really strong laning support over on the other side in the Neeko. Of course, there's always the slight possibility Neeko's going to flex and stuff, but we're just going to kind of ignore that because I don't really expect that to be true.
It doesn't happen a lot these days.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of have to have a Neeko specialist in mid lane to really like pull that out.
Or be very desperate.
Right. Desperation or specialization. Yeah. I feel like being down 1-0, you're not desperate yet. And
I specialize in 2 champions, and now I'm out of them. I'm going to play Neeko mid.
Okay, here we go. Slam the Neeko. All right, Annie is the second ban from JDG, though, so they don't want to deal with the potential of just the instant burst onto the Ahri, or even the Vi if she tries to dive in, right?
Ooh,
so
Poppy goes hard.
Yeah, I feel like Poppy against Vi, Renekton, there's so much value
and
against
Ahri.
all 3 of these champions. Okay, I love this pick from BLG.
This is one of these games where I feel like Poppy is just generically good in the meta. I know it's not the fastest clearing jungler, right? I know it does have some weaknesses,
right,
but I feel like it is just generically strong. And then you see a draft like this and you're like, oh, you just won the game.
Yeah, Steadfast Presence is one of those abilities that I feel like is just absolutely nuts against certain champions. Okay, JDG is going with the ladder combo that bullies lane. Caitlyn Lux, this is a tried and true 2v2 that is made to put you under your turret and constantly provide pressure. That's going to be their choice into the Yunara and Neeko. Meanwhile, the final pick of the draft for BLG is Mel in mid lane.
And Mel is a classic in the LPA. They love this pick. It is so much more popular in the LPL than elsewhere in the world, and it is a great matchup into the Ahri. Obviously, you're just holding the rebuke for the charm, right? You're trying to stop that charm, because not only are you stopping the damage, you're stopping the damage amp, you are then potentially charming the Ahri, which can completely screw her over. I do think the difficulty here for me with the JDG comp, like, it is pretty cohesive. The Lux ult even later on can be used as part of the dive. My issue is that where do you go as a jungler? You're playing Caitlyn Lux. That needs help. You need to push. You need to farm plates. You need to play in their face, which exposes you to the enemy jungler. So that means you got to protect them. But then on the other side of the map, you're also playing Renekton into Sion. That guy needs to get ahead too. So I do feel like JunJia's in one of these kind of impossible situations where not 1, not 2, but 3 lanes really want his help. And that is so difficult to deal with. Whereas Sion is completely happy just to chill and farm. Mel is going to be completely happy just to deal with that 1v1 herself. It's really only bot lane that I think needs Shun's help. So I feel like his job is so much easier than JunJia's this game.
And I mean, when you think of jungle in League of Legends in general, every single decision you make, whether it's to farm, to gank, to ward, to recall, they all come at an opportunity cost.
Yeah.
And when all 3 lanes need help like you're talking about, those opportunity costs, well, let's just say that the economy value here is skyrocketing. So your decision making becomes that much more important even than it normally is. So I'm curious how well JunJia will be able to navigate that, how well he can make sure he's relieving the pressure where it's needed most.
And it's so tough, right? Just, you know, multiple of these lanes have got to play aggressive or they're just not going to be that useful. In isolation, Ahri is going to really have trouble, I think, against this Mel. Obviously, in isolation, GALA and Vampire are going to do great in the 2v2.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this is to be at their tower farming plates, right? That is what this kind of thing has to do. Caitlyn is a really interesting AD carry because, you know, even when it's really popular in solo queue, a lot of times I'll talk to pro players and ask them, you know, why aren't we seeing a lot of Caitlyn? And often the response I hear is that Caitlyn is the most OP champion in the game until you make one mistake, and then is the least OP champion in the game.
Right. It's so tempo-based.
Exactly. It's so tempo-based. You need to be ahead of the curve. You need to be farming plates. You need to be really accelerating yourself. And one death sometimes completely screws that.
All right, so both of our junglers in this one are starting on the top side, pathing towards bottom. I like that for both of them. Again, we're talking about if you're Shun, you're really looking at relieving the pressure on the bottom lane from that Caitlyn Lux that you're talking about. And if you're JunJia, you're probably expecting Shun to be focusing on that bottom lane most, so you want to be there in case he shows up.
Exactly. So it's a lot of going to be tracking here as well. You know, just making sure you know where the enemy jungler is. You're playing well around your timings. And that Viper and On are playing well. On had a killer Bard game in game number 1. HongQ not really having any fun as he is just getting walked down right now by Knight.
Knight does use the rebuttal there, though. So very, very long cooldown at level 1. This is one of the longest cooldown basic abilities in League of Legends. So whenever you can get that out of him, you do know that you have some opportunities to go more aggressive for a little bit.
Yeah, and that is going to be really, really important. The timing of this ability is so huge, right? Because it is not just a shield. It is not just, you know, some basic little defensive thing.
It's like Fiora parry.
Exactly. Well, and even more so, it's Fiora parry if you reflected it back. Like, you know, you're able to turn around an entire fight sometimes with that. And so it's the offensive power that is so powerful as well. You know, this is Bin versus the LPL internationally. You think about Bin as this mainstay in international play. You think about him often, if he gets taken down, it's by the LCK, but he does actually have a losing record versus the LPL internationally. Has not always been able to dominate that regional competition, but this time definitely coming in as a favorite.
And I mean, even just think back to last year's Worlds. BLG was one of the teams that people were talking about, like, yeah, this should be a potential.
They don't want to think back.
Finalist team. Yeah, BLG wants to forget last Worlds. That was a big disappointment for that roster compared to expectations. So being able to clutch up in the big moments, being able to make sure that you live up to the expectations that not only everybody else has for you, but you should have for yourself. Very important as Sion makes the tackle onto HongQ here nice and early. It's only level 4, so there's no way to use a Spirit Rush to try to get away. They force the flash out of the Ahri. Nicely done.
Yeah, it's a good gank there, really well timed. He's full clearing, just goes over, does get that. Xiaoxu going to be able to grab his first plate here already, so does have the push, and of course taking some damage to do that. I also say it was really nice from HongQ. Ooh, what was that flash?
Not 100% sure.
I looked at something else for a second, and then I just saw him flash out of the bush, and I didn't see any skill shots come out, so I'm not quite sure what happened there. I was looking at something else on the mini-map.
Maybe we'll get a replay.
Maybe we will get a replay. I'm not sure if that was accident or if it was like a flash binding that went into the minions. I genuinely did not catch it, but HongQ flashed very, very early there, which I think is important because he had just TP'd back. So if you don't flash early and you tank a bunch of damage and you have to take a really bad base there, sure, it sucks that you lost your flash, but it's better to lose the flash early if you're going to do it.
Ooh, look at the damage! First blood GALA in the 2v2, the Piltover Peacemaker into the follow-up auto. GALA gets his first kill on drops. No jungler help required. Caitlyn Lux doing what they were drafted for.
Yeah, and playing against Caitlyn Lux sometimes can be a bit of a bullet hell. You're constantly dodging. You feel like you're doing well, you're doing well, you're doing well. Hit by one binding, into the trap, into the full Caitlyn combo. Q, auto, E, double headshot, 100-0, just dead.
I mean, most bullet hell games are you can dodge 99 things, but if the 100th hits you, you lose. And sure enough,
got 99 problems, and unfortunately binding is one, as he does get taken down there. Vampire sets it up well, and Vampire has been playing, I think, quite well. He had a really good roam towards the top side to help out Xiaoxu last game with that early TP on the Alistar. And Vampire is just a very interesting player. He's a guy who's had kind of a mixed history. He came in and for a while was considered potentially the worst player, worst support, maybe even the worst player in the LPL, had really been struggling, but has had such an incredible turnaround, on WE, on this roster that was not expected to be good at all. He completely surpassed people's expectations, really impressed so many players, and has completely turned around his trajectory, and now I feel like he is, one of the best supports in the LPL. He's really impressive, and is going to be an important part of any win they could get.
Ooh, nice solar snare there onto HongQ. Knight forcing out the Spirit Rush from the enemy jungler as the Drake does go over to JDG. Now Sion in the middle of the pit, has to flash trying to get away from JunJia, but now JunJia turns it right back around. He wants to go after Knight, who escapes back towards the rest of his team, waiting over the wall. So both teams trying to get a little bit fresh here in the fight after the Dragon's already down, but nobody falls. JDG still up 1,500 gold 8 minutes into the game. They're feeling great about this early game.
Yeah, and that smite was a clencher as Xiaoxu interrupts the smash.
Okay, the defensive Sion ulti again. This is the Sion classic. You fight with him a little bit. Once it looks like you're going to lose, you just run away. Yeah, he's got to try to make it home. Does still have his flash available, but no, Xiaoxu's not going to pursue any further.
Yeah, he doesn't know where Sion is, so he's a little bit nervous about that. So Ben buys enough time that he won't chase after him. But that was a risky smite. JunJia actually smote the dragon down to about 20 HP, and it was an auto attack from GALA that did end up claiming it. So GALA secured that. And could have been pretty bad had they lost that dragon, but you have full bot side prio, you have a very good early game lead. GALA's up almost 1,000 gold already. Viper very far behind as far as the CS is concerned, and First Blood wins at GALA, and they got a plate, and they got a dragon.
It's a lot of hands.
It's a lot of hands. And it's a great start for JDG.
And it is, as Ben eats the Renekton combo here yet again. The Sion down about 10 CS, but again, this is what you expect early on versus the Renekton. He should have a lead because of how well Sion is going to scale. Jungle is relatively even. Knight and HongQ, again, relatively even in mid lane, but the story really is that bottom lane. If Caitlyn Lux gets picked, this is what it's got to be for. But like you mentioned earlier, your conversations with other pro players, it's about making sure you never, ever ever slip. Caitlyn Lux must continue to play from a lead. I specifically want to see them to continue play around these dragons. Make sure you're there first. The trap lines are a lot of Caitlyn's power. Being able to set up for objectives, make it so things like the banana brush aren't safe. The entry ramps aren't safe. They aren't an available way to get to the fight. And that's what I'm really going to have my eyes on for JDG as this game goes forward.
And I think it does kind of lend itself to one of their strengths. You know, I talked about how good their objective setups generally are. So now that they have an advantage, now that they have a Caitlyn who can really control space, it is going to be powerful. And, you know, not only is the Caitlyn trap line just annoying to walk through, but it also pairs very, very well with skill shot champions. Because even if there is a slight gap, you have to walk around the traps into a potential binding or charm. That makes things really, really difficult. Of course, BLG will try to claim space, you know, utilizing their Sion. Xun has JunJia behind him, doesn't know it just yet, though.
All right, they drop the ward, seeing if maybe they can find anybody passing through this red buff area of the jungle, but not going to happen. The gold lead still hovering around the same area it's been for quite a while now here for JDG at about 1,500. Grubs are available on the map. JDG sending their jungler towards that area, but you can see Bin, with the fact that he has the wave currently pushed out, has the chance to go and ward that top side of the river. So they will see JunJia doing this. They won't be able to stop at least the first grub, and you can see HongQ already in a defensive position to cover for JunJia, who now backs away from the remaining two grubs, ready to help the fight as On tries to go in, but instead the reversal is beautiful. GALA gets out of the range. They fire back with a light binding because they know that Neeko has to stop in the same spot to drop the ulti. And the Wombo combo is just way too powerful. The Piltover Peacemaker takes the kill. Not only do they get their second 2v2 kill of the game in the bottom lane, but JDG claim all three grubs. They're up over 2,000 gold. Game 2 is all JDG all the way.
And now the bot lane is going to get even more tough because GALA will have those grubs.
Okay, Bin just going to walk this one off. Wants to get away from Xiaoxu. Misses the decimating smash. Charged it a little bit long there. Bin goes back in for the ulti. As Xun shows up, point blank keeper's verdict. Finds the double knockup. Decimating smash with a double knockup of its own as Knight appears. JunJia drops. And there's the second one as well as Xiaoxu falls to Knight. Big play from BLG to keep themselves in this game.
Yeah, Knight appears and JDG vanished. Call it a magic trick. BLG right back into this game now, creating those solo lane leads that they so desperately need after this engage goes bad from On. He did force double flashes, so that is one positive for them. You know, he flashed in with the Pop Blossom, got the double flash, but like you say, when you press Pop Blossom, you CC yourself, right? You are going to be going straight up, straight down. That's where the binding is going. That's where the trap is going, and that's where you are going to get one shot. And Viper now, it was already not a fun lane. It is that much less fun now as Yuntal is already completed here, and it is triple grubs here, so they are going to be able to deal even more damage to this tower. This one's pretty much a lock to be first turret of the game. I don't know that BLG can really do anything about it.
And Yuntal is one of those items, it's like Rod of Ages, right? Considering you have to stack it, the earlier you get it, that's the earlier it's going to be at max strength, which will just continue making sure you're ahead of the pace of the game, you're playing from that lead like you want to. Second Drake of the game up right now, as you can see a bunch of blue pings in that bottom side river. BLG thinking about contesting it, has been up here in the top side, does have Thornmail fully completed now, going to make those trades from Xiaoxu that much less scary. JunJia does walk down into the river. Now will look to go for this second Drake potentially, but instead just decides to control ward it. There's your big laser from Vampire trying to create a little space. I remember when that thing was called Finale's Funkeln or something. I think it's an anime reference, like it's a German anime reference or something. I don't remember what it was, but I'm so glad that they changed it to whatever it is now that I can't remember off the top of my head for some reason. But JDG,
is it Final Spark?
Final Spark, that's what it is. I'm pretty sure that's actually what the translation of Finale's Funkeln is.
Okay.
But yeah, the name was definitely harder to remember earlier, even though I remembered it but forgot the real one. As Xun, channeling the keeper's verdict, nice knock, gets rid of the enemy jungler there, wants to try to finish the damage here onto the dragon, and there it is, Mountain Drake secured for BLG. They're going to feel good about that one. As the Vi ulti, he flashes over the wall and he drags JunJia with him. I love when players do that against a Vi. Her ulti is a full commit no matter what once it's cast, so considering he drags JunJia over the wall, he spends his flash, but he demands a flash in response from JunJia.
Yep, going to be able to trade that out, and that is going to feel really nice. JDG, even with this big gold advantage, you know, not running everything to their liking. It is BLG that are able to grab that dragon. It is BLG with slight advantages on the top side. And this is going to be a game, we already kind of knew it, but it's really all about GALA. He has all of that gold lead, and Bin has been able to stabilize thus far on that top side. Xiaoxu's doing his best, but it's tough.
Yeah, a Thornmail doing plenty of work here for the Sion as he goes in for the point-blank ulti. Decimating smash right after. Bin's got the timing to catch him on the very edge, and as the Soul Furnace explodes, Xiaoxu's consumed in the flames. Bin, 2-0-1 on the Sion.
And I just don't want to see this matchup anymore, man. It's
so
like,
rough.
if Xiaoxu can't do well in this matchup, then what can you do? You know, he was doing great in the 1v1, but all
Team
it takes
game.
is exactly one gank, one play goes bad. It's kind of like the inverse of the Caitlyn matchup, right? Where it's same situation where it looks good until it doesn't, because one thing goes Bin's way. Now he's up 600 gold. Look how much armor he has. We talked about this in draft.
Yep.
He doesn't care about the Ahri. He doesn't care about anything the Ahri does, and he never will. And now he has just so much armor that even with the Black Cleaver, it's going to be very difficult for Xiaoxu, and you can see in the Coinbase gold grind, it is a monstrous gold lead for GALA, but he is going to have to deal with Bin eventually, and Bin is just going to be playing in his face, you feel like, in every team fight.
GALA is the gold lead. 1.7k for the Caitlyn, 1.7k for the team as a whole. You can see at the scoreboard at the top. So a lot of pressure on GALA here to make sure that he can really bring this home. It's his job to carry in this one. The Caitlyn must be on point if JDG wants to take this early lead, convert it into a win, turn it into a tied-up series.
And I mean, Vampire has a big gold lead himself, but it's not as though this is the solo queue style. He's not going Luden's Shadow Flame. He's not, you know, he's going support items, right? So, you know, Lux with a gold lead is fine, but this is not a Lux that's going to one-shot you. Sometimes, like, you see that in solo queue when they really get a lot of gold. He is just playing that supportive style. They're going to try to set up a dive onto Xiaoxu, though. They are bullying this guy.
Yeah, the tackle straight into the turret for the stun, but where's the rest of the damage? Viper has to overcommit to get it, and that means he's going to die in a one-for-one trade.
Yeah, it is a one-for-one, but honestly, I think you take those because that is gold in Viper's pockets here. You do kill off Xiaoxu. Yes, you give a kill back to JunJia, but if you can just trade gold for your AD carry and their jungler, I think you're going to be pretty happy about that. The wave was pushed in. Not the ideal play, but not bad at all. And the Caitlyn Lux have moved mid, but Knight has very good wave clear, so I kind of feel like maybe we need to try to see them get elsewhere on the map, you know, find a lane to really pressure. Knight is going down towards bot side now, so it is going to be back in their favor in the mid lane.
Yeah, JunJia jumps towards on there, finds a little bit of damage, but the Neeko is just fine. All he's doing is making enough space to guarantee that Sion can grab that crab without there being any sort of a contest for it. Because the Rift Herald is up, BLG wants control over this topside river. Bin teleports in to make sure that he's here for the fight as well. Does have his Mercury treads completed, making sure that he can get out of the CC when he does get hit by it inevitably as the front line for BLG. But a TP coming in now for JDG with the Rift Herald down to 4,000 HP.
Split.
JDG wants to fight for this. Viper's away from the rest of the team. Tries to throw out the Arc of Judgment. A disguised Neeko as a minion in the jungle. We could see On go for something, but no. JDG hasn't seen him yet. They don't want to go for anything here. Let's see if they can make their way forward now as the Sion ulti leads the charge. Xiaoxu though with a slice and dice through the Sion to get away. JDG decides they don't want to take any more fights. And honestly, for BLG, when you're almost 2,000 gold behind and you can take the Rift Herald in the face of your opponents with no fight, that feels pretty good.
It feels really, really good. But again, you know, Caitlyn is one of these difficult champions that if you take that fight and you lose that fight, your power is kind of gone. And he's working towards what I'm assuming is going to be an IE second here, and that's where GALA will start to spike a lot. But I really think at this point for JDG, you're looking towards 3 items because this is the guy with all your gold, and this is the guy who has to deal with Bin.
Ooh, nice engage there from JunJia and HongQ going after Knight. The rebuttal buys a little bit of time for him. Solar Snare underneath the turret, but there's no way the turret can do enough damage to make that trade even. So you got the mid-jungle combo. That Vi Ahri from HongQ and JunJia finds their target.
Yeah, they're going to be able to find their target there. Knight died while channeling the ultimate. Otherwise, maybe he has enough damage to threaten JunJia. Probably still would have lived, but this means with that play up on top side, GALA, Vampire push up through mid lane, create even more of a gold lead down on that bottom side, which is really, really nice. You really try to rush towards those 3 items on Caitlyn. Once you have IE, LDR, you are feeling very, very good. Caitlyn can utilize that damage so effectively with her range. As long as they can keep her safe, she has a real chance. But the reset timing is so late that it means they're just giving over a free dragon.
Yep, HongQ takes the tier 1 turret in the top side, but remember that they did have to commit both Spirit Rush and the Vi ulti onto that top side play. So BLG knows, all right, they won't be able to play from a position of setup. They won't have strength around this dragon. We've got to take every dragon we can to stop the stacking. So they will at least get that second. second one, but it's a 3,500 gold lead for JDG.
And JDG wouldn't have wanted to fight even if HongQ had his ult because GALA hadn't based, and now he has the IE, so you definitely wouldn't want to force with your AD carry having the entire gold lead in his pockets, right?
Right.
You've got to spend that up. He has done so now he is out to that Infinity Edge, has the Untal, has the tier 2 boots, going to be really, really strong. But again, it's about the LDR because Bin is just going to be stacking armor this game. You need to be able to get through him. Poppy's going to go in towards a Deadman's next. So there's going to be so much armor, so much frontline power that GALA will have to be able to knock through. And it's all up to him to be able to do it. You get a little bit of help, obviously, from that Black Cleaver maybe. But there's no guarantee that Xiaoxu's ever even hitting Bin in a team fight. So you really do need the armor pen. And
I like this total gold chart here on the side of the screen because we know that GALA has the biggest lead individually in this game, but seeing that Viper is also the second richest person in the game, period, and he's still 2,000 gold behind, it really just shows how far ahead the Caitlyn is.
I mean, it's so funny sometimes when you look at a pro game and you're like, ah, damn, your AD carry's down 40 CS. He must have farmed really badly. Viper has 10 CS a minute.
Yeah, more, actually. It's just crazy. As now BLG are looking for their opportunity to make a play. Taco into the wall, onto HongQ. Keeper's verdict, ready to juggle it. Golden Eclipse finds the kill. They try to get JunJia away, but now Viper is on the hunt, chasing him down. He has transcended. Another ball breaker might try to get JunJia out of the way, but no! Steadfast Presence stops that in its tracks. Viper gets a couple of kills here, and the Yunara is trying to catch back up.
Yeah, you do not want that to happen. As you're pointing out, you know, despite the fact that it is this massive gold lead, Viper still has a lot of total gold. He is still a strong character in this game. Maybe not compared to GALA right now, but damn, he's going to have a lot of gold here on base. There's the second item already completed. Going to be working in towards that third. So we're talking about, you make that one misstep. If Caitlyn has one bad team fight, you know, if they show up to this next dragon and they lose, I think they are going to lose the game. So they have got to button up here. You know, BLG, we're looking for this engage. It looks like a failed engage initially, but everyone comes in from BLG. The Solar Snare landed on 2 there from Knight. They burst out HongQ, and then they're just fully committing to this. So many flashes spent. They're going in on it. They know GALA's not involved. Xiaoxu's not involved. We are going to win this fight, and they're able to donate some of that gold straight into Viper's pockets.
And you mentioned Viper completing the second item, and it's one of those items, the Fiend Hunter bolts. Certain items in League of Legends are built by every champion of a class when you think about Infinity Edge, right? Something like that. But something like Fiend Hunter bolts only fits on a few champs, right? You think about Zeri, you think about Twitch, you think about Yunara, but the champs that it works on, it is so strong with, right? So Viper really going to feel a lot better now that he's got that 2-item power spike. Looking at other 2-item power spikes coming around, you've got both the Ludens and the Proto Belt for Knight. You've got the Unending Despair on Bin. It's more of what you were talking about earlier. Armor. Merc Treads feels good enough for the magic resist, right? On the other side, though, you do have the Proto Belt also completed for HongQ's Ahri. We've already talked about the Infinity Edge on GALA, and JDG are pressuring the tier 2 turret here in the mid lane now. Viper just going to clear that one out as well as he can. Has plenty of wave clear there on the Yunara to do so as JDG decide to head away. The Rift Herald is summoned up in mid lane. This is kind of a, it was timing out, so we just have to use it, Herald. So unfortunately for BLG, yeah, it's not great. Shelly's not even going to get a charge onto one turret, so that objective that BLG claimed does go to waste. And you can see here the total gold over the course of the game back at 10 minutes was JDG's biggest lead so far, and now we're back to a game that's not even 1,000 apart.
Yeah, I actually think they're losing at this point, despite the 1,000 gold lead. I mean, you're down at Dragon, you look compositionally at how difficult it's going to be to get through Bin. I feel like Bin's job is basically right-click on GALA and close your eyes. You know, you just walk at this guy, you pretend nothing else exists. As long as GALA is hitting Bin, I think it's going to take him so long to get past that front line that the rest of the 4v4 is really, really good, right? As long as GALA can actually access those priority targets, I think it is very difficult. So then it's up to JDG to try to preempt that. You know, you have to be the ones finding the engage. You got to control vision, control space with the traps, really set yourself up well so that you're the one starting the fight, and Bin can't just walk in and make GALA back up.
Right, the question isn't just which AD carry has more money, more items. It's, does Caitlyn from 1,500 gold lead kill Sion and Poppy faster than a Yunara that you already said was still very relevant in the game, kill Renekton and Vi?
Yeah, a 0-3 Renekton, right? You know, who's going to die faster? Well, often the gold on the Sion is a lot harder to deal with.
Well, The thing for JDG, though, is they're doing exactly what we wanted to see them do around this bottom side dragon. They are there first, as the 4th dragon of the game is about to spawn. They're trying to set up the Caitlyn traps, trying to draw these battle lines nice and early, but as you would expect, BLG will send Bin in first. If he accidentally eats a cupcake, it's not a problem. He'll step straight through the banana brush, but the dragon has already been claimed by JDG, and now Bin's eating a ton of damage. Final spark over the top. Bin already almost dead. Keeper's verdict hits no one. Shun tries to use the steadfast presence to defend himself. Defensive pop blossom coming out from on, but he's already dead. It's a 1-for-1 trade here so far. Xiaoxu tries to get away. You can see HongQ barely any HP left on the Ahri. So both top laner and mid laner from JDG barely hanging on. It's a 1-for-1. However, JDG got the objective. BLG wants to try to get something back. They're going to go after at least some plates here in the mid lane tier 1 turret. They'll grab the first 2. TP ready to reinforce. Nice solar snare timing into the Radiant Volley right after. So HongQ doesn't get any value out of that one, but JDG will be happy taking the dragon.
Yeah, the amount of CC should.
Didn't get the tackle into the wall. HongQ not quite in the position that Shun was hoping, so he tackles him just to the side of those 2 pine trees sticking out at the front. No extra stun, no extra damage.
Still nice. Shun pushes it back, and that covers Knight to push out the top wave, right? So that is kind of that 2-pronged play. As this is not going to be able to kill off Shun. You know, Bin walked in, he ate so much CC, is still able to retreat back, but it looked like JDG was maybe going to run over this fight until On had a really good turn on the Pop Blossom. Yep. Catches multiple members, that buys the space for Viper and Knight to get their work done. But I will say I'm super concerned that GALA did not go LDR third. He went rapid fire. And there was just too much armor on Bin. You are not going to hurt this guy.
And now we can see BLG in the enemy jungle yet again. They were looking at JunJia. They chunk him down to about 40% HP, but they're not going to threaten anything lethal. Let's take another look at how BLG approach.
Yeah, so Bin walk forward. Yes, you are very tanky, but look at all the CC. There is Charm, there is Binding, there is Trap, there is everything hitting him. So with all that damage piling in, they do go. But look at this Pop Blossom, the turnaround here, catching both of the soul laners. And that meant they could not follow up on the Vi, right? The Vi is going in deep. Both soul laners try to come in. On denies the follow-up. So Viper just focuses down the Vi, and then he can turn his eyes on this Renekton, on this Ahri as well.
And this is the second time this game that we have seen Shun flash towards his team once he sees the Vi ultimate on him. And I feel like this is his inner jungler senses knowing how obnoxious it is when you're Vi ulting someone and they drag you further forward. He's saying, no, this is how we kill you. You pressed the doom button and I'm not the one who's doomed.
Yep. Man. I am just so concerned that GALA did not buy Last Whisper. Even look at the Poppy. Like, we've been talking so much about Sion. Look at the Poppy's build now. Poppy has Steel Caps, Deadmans, as well as a lot more armor on top. They're probably both going to go Randuins this game.
Okay, On going forward with the Pop Blossom. They want the damage here into JunJia, but the tackle doesn't hit the wall. On staying alive for now. JunJia dies, but is traded back as HongQ kills On. Now over in the mid lane, it's GALA hit with a decimating smash. Viper needs one more auto attack in the Fed. Caitlyn is dead. Now up here with the top side River. It's another kill. Knights on a killing spree. HongQ falls. Xiaoxu wants to get one back onto Shun, and he needs it. They don't want to let BLG try to get away with taking a bear in 25 minutes into the game, but they don't have anything to say about it. That's 4 dead on JDG. The throw is complete, and BLG's going after Baron.
JDG, let's check the time. Time of death, 25:50 in this game. BLG rip the game from their hands. The lead for GALA means nothing. The soul laners again stealing the show. And JDG can do nothing but watch as their hopes in this game just slipped away from them.
Man, let's take another look at how it started here in 2 different places.
Yeah, so On is looking for aggressive play. They have caught out JunJia. JunJia's kind of on the run. Vampire comes in, HongQ comes in. They do kill off the support, but you spent a lot to just kill the support, and this is the bigger problem. The unstoppable onslaught from Bin catches GALA in transition, even with the flash. He can't go anywhere, and you just can't die like that. Like I said, you got one mistake, and that was his one for the game, unfortunately. And you make that one mistake, and you are punished so heavily. Now Viper is in a really strong spot. You decided...
Oh my God, 3,000 gold lead now.
And it makes the decision to go rapid fire even worse, because now you're not actually pushing. Now you're not getting as much gold. You're slowed down so much. When is his LDR going to finish? Next game?
Probably, because you were right in what you said earlier, my friend. It's Randuin's Omen now on Bin.
It's going to be double Randuin's.
I guess I don't really care that you have 75% crit chance on Caitlyn right now, because that means you have a 75% chance to get your damage reduced by Randuin's Omen. Now BLG continuing to push forward here on the tier 2. The doubled up Baron cannon minions, just providing plenty of extra firepower. But JDG can't even try to defend this. They don't even need the extra range of the cannon minions because everybody on BLG can step forward, get the job done themselves. 4,500 gold lead. Baron for another 90 seconds. Pressure onto the tier 2 turret in mid lane now as BLG is just easily walking from lane to lane, taking whatever structure they want. And JDG is struggling to find any sort of a response.
I mean, even On is going to have a Frozen Heart. Knight has a Zonias. There's so much armor on this team. It is going to be incredibly difficult. And really, you only have Viper as a target now, right? Like, that is it. Because you can't go on the Zonia's Mel. You can't go on anyone on the top side. And you really can't win a fight by spending all of your damage on either. So JDG now, it's got to be basically Viper or a bust. And if you ult from a really long range, and on Viper, he's going to R, Conmay step. He's going to pull you back into the middle of the team. And they're going to do what they've done to JunJia a number of times this game.
All right, BLG, time to crack open the base, and it's not going to be met with much resistance at all. Tier 3 turret falls in the mid lane. As JDG still thinking about, do we even fight for this? Is inhib number 1 worth it? The answer seems to be no right now as Vampire gets back from the fountain, joins back up with the rest of the team. Only Neeko cloned in the enemy base there. They throw the light binding at it just in case. JunJia and Xiaoxu trying to defend the tier 3 turret here in bottom. Bin again though, just that front line you can't do anything about. The Sion is so hard to kill as the third plate drops off of the tier 3 turret. BLG know that they've only got the Baron for about another 10 seconds. As you can see, Bin going for a recall, does have teleport to rejoin the rest of the team if he needs to. Shun though might be caught on a little bit of a bad spot, but On has a nice pop blossom and dares the kill onto the buy. JunJia's into the picture and Viper goes in. He's transcended and he's ready to put the pressure onto JDG. The Renekton is useless. Decimating smash into GALA. Bin creating all the space in the world as JDG have to head back to the fountain, tail between their legs. And BLG got a 5v3. They push towards Nexus turrets. First one's about to drop. Bin continuing to keep everybody else on JDG trapped in the fountain steps. As On moves forward, tries to reposition. He will fall. 4v3 for BLG. Shun with the tackle forward. Steadfast presence again. So much value here out of the Poppy W. HongQ dies. GALA dies. Vampire can't do anything. BLG win game 2. They're on match point.
It was a great start from JDG, but a much better finish from BLG. Bin was just laughing on him on the fountain steps there. Takes about 50 autos from GALA until GALA says, you know what? I'm going to stop autoing. He tries to walk past him and just dies.